Hey, everybody. It's Barry with the Best Boys Center Ice podcast. And I just did something to my screen that made it all blue. I don't know what's going on here. Um, but we're here for the 2025 Stanley Cup Playoffs wrap up. It's the first night of the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm joined, of course, as always, by the top analyst, hockey analyst I've ever heard of, Carson Besse, my son. And today we're going to dive into the second round. The first game today was Toronto, Florida. Before we get to that, I want to just say you can get all of the 2025 Stanley Cup playoff wrap up shows from the Best Boys on the Best Boys Center Ice podcast YouTube page. That's available every day on the the Refocused Radio Network, and on that network as well as the Best Boys is the Shemaya Reed's I Am Refocused Radio and Rudy Campos Jr. and Sweep the League. And we're on here every night after the last game. There was only one game today. But before we get to all that, I want to say to everybody out there on the internet, happy birthday to my son, Carson, the big 2-3 today. Happy birthday, son.
Yep. Thank you. Glad to spend it doing the show this year.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So one game today, and it looked like Toronto was going to run away with this game. They went up 4-1
after
the second period. And I was thinking, is this the Toronto Maple Leafs that we've come to know and love? Or is this some different team that's actually going to play and get through the second round? And then there was an incident in the second period with Anthony Stolarz, the goaltender for Toronto. He got, and by looking at the highlights, he got, I don't know if Sam Bennett elbowed him in the back of the head, or he made contact with him in the back of the head. Stolarz went to the bench. He was actually vomiting on the bench. And I heard through a report, I don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah, that he got stretchered?
That they had to stretcher him out in the third period because he was concussion protocol.
Well, this stems from the first round. He had an incident where he against the Sens where he had a bit of a collision there with his head, I think hitting the post, and that caused some problems for him. And this seems to just be kind of aggravating that issue for him. But yeah, I saw the same thing, that he was stretchered off and that he was throwing up on the bench in the second. So that's crazy. Hopefully he's okay, obviously, and that it's not serious.
Because when Stuart Skinner at the end of the season had to go into concussion protocol, they stood him out for a few games. And, I just think this is a little bit more serious. When you start, vomiting and having to go be stretchered off after a concussion, then, that's not a good sign. But Wall came in and he held the fort a little bit. Florida did make a little bit of a comeback in the third period. They actually got to
they got to 4-3 and then 5-4.
And then 5-4. But in this game, I was kind of surprised at how Bob played, Bobrovsky. Not a typical Bob game, really.
Mm-hmm.
And because if you look at the history of the Panthers, how Bob goes is how the Florida Panthers go. And they got the game first round against Tampa Bay. He was fantastic, but tonight, he had 29 shots and let in 5 goals. I don't know. It's like, did you see? Like, it just didn't.
He just looked off his game. His game. I mean, rough start. They let in a goal right away. The first 30 seconds of the game, Toronto scores, and you're already behind it. Then Nylander scored again at the end of towards the end of the first. They just didn't have any traction, I don't think. The beginning of the game, they didn't play very well, despite the fact that they cut it to 2-1 in the first, but then like 10, 15 seconds after, Morgan Riley scored on a 2-on-1. So the Panthers never really gained any traction at the beginning of the game. Toronto outplayed them way from the start. The Panthers got to clean that up for sure. But again, this I don't think is anything to be really concerned about or too excited about for either side. I mean, Toronto leads Florida 1-0. They've led series before 1-0 or been tied 1-1 going on the road, and that hasn't worked out well for him.
No, like
So it
I
doesn't
just
make a difference. The Bob's got to be better though. He does. So
yeah.
you're right. The way however Bobrovsky plays is where the Panthers go. You're right. So he's got to be better.
No, I have to admit the Leafs look really good tonight. Like they had this jump. Besides that little part early in the third period where Florida kind of took over the game a little bit, but they kept nailing.
But
They kept going at it
to be
late.
expected when the Panthers are down 3,
Yeah,
you know. So, a good on the Leafs to win that game in front of their fans for sure, but this is a long series. I anticipate it to get really chippy after this whole thing tonight with Stolars and
hmm
Bennett. Um, Next game. But yeah, the Leafs gotta just be ready from the jump. And if I'm assuming Wall's going to play now, there's no way
yeah.
Stolarz is going to play next game. So he's got to be ready, and Bob's got to be ready. It's going to be again who's going to start better out of those two is going to win the next game.
Yeah, and I think you're right because the next game is going to be probably Wednesday night. So I don't think he would get out of
I
concussion
wouldn't see him
protocol.
coming back if anything till game 5. I mean, now that they've won this first game, there's not an urgent need to get him back right
No,
now. I think you
no,
rest him for a while. You don't need him right now.
no. So the Leafs win 5-4. They take the early 1-0 series lead over Florida. We head into tomorrow night. We've got a couple of games, so we're going to take a look at here. One is Carolina Hurricanes in the nation's capital against the Washington Capitals. Both teams went and won their series in 5. The last series. I'm just thinking Washington's going to win this one out. It's going to be a long series, but I think Washington will outdo Carolina. And I think we talked about it last game. Carolina
Yeah.
just doesn't have the superstardom players that Washington get. Washington, you can turn Ovi on, and there you go. You've got your superstar. Um, I know we kind of said at the beginning of the playoffs, I don't think Washington will kind of last very long, but I think if they can, the key is of course game 1. Carolina comes out and wins on the road in game
Well,
1. It kind of turns things around a little bit.
Well, and you have to think both these teams haven't played in a long time. It's been
Yeah,
almost a week. It's been a week since it'll be a week tomorrow that Carolina won their series. And Washington, did they close theirs out first?
yeah. I think
No,
Washington.
because Carolina was the first team to advance.
Yeah,
So Washington probably advanced on Wednesday. So it's been a week or so, give or take,
Mhm.
that both these teams have played. Again, it's going to be about the start of the game. I agree, though. I think Washington will win game 1 tomorrow. Simply just been the fact they're at home.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's going to be a raucous atmosphere. It's going to be a good game, but yeah, I have Washington taking it. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, though. I could see like a 3-1 kind of game.
Yeah. And the second game tomorrow night is in Vegas. The
We
Golden
don't have to talk about
Knights
this one.
against
Blah, blah,
the
blah,
yes, we
blah,
do.
blah, blah, blah.
The
Let's just
Golden
go.
Knights against the Edmonton Oilers. Both teams again won their first round matchups in 6 games. The Oilers over the Kings and the Golden Knights over a very tough Minnesota team. Now, this is, Golden Knights, Pacific Division champions. Oilers wound up third place in the division. This is going to be a good series. I've still, of course, got the Oilers going to this one in 6, but again, it's going to be goaltending in this one. Aiden Hill against what looks like Calvin Pickard. And it's going to be, can the Oilers, like you said the other night, they have to play full 60 games in this series. They can't get away with playing 20 minutes
Yeah,
or the
20.
last 20 minutes
Even
against those
40.
teams.
Even 40.
Yeah.
You got to play the whole thing. You got to play. We saw what it did to the Blues last night.
Mm-hmm.
They played 58 perfect minutes.
Yeah. And
they played 2 bad minutes, and that cost them their season.
that's all it takes in the Stanley Cup playoffs is if you play 58 minutes and you're solid, but if you give up a couple of goals late and you're tied and you go into overtime and you lose, it just means nothing.
Yeah, and it's going to be a good game tomorrow. Again, I have the Oilers winning the series, but I think that Vegas is going to take this first game. I think
it's par for the course because the Oilers haven't won the first game in the series in how long? It's been a while. Been a few playoff series since they've actually come out of the gate and won game 1. But all they have to do to get the home ice is
win one of those.
Win one of those games in Vegas, which will be again tomorrow and Thursday will be the first 2 games. I think, the Golden Knights, they fought hard to get the Pacific Division. I think they're a better club, of course, than they were last year when they were ousted in the first round. But are they a better club than what they had 2 years ago when they won the Stanley Cup? Are they a better team than that?
I think they're pretty darn close. I think
Yeah.
they're a really good team um, there, and it's going to be tough. I think you look from top to bottom, lines 1 through 4. Both these teams are pretty close. I think Edmonton has more scoring power as far as that goes from lines 1 through 4, but I think Vegas has more grit than the Oilers do. I think they
Mhm.
have more guys that are ready to dig deep in the corners, lay the body more, and be more physical.
Yeah.
But again, it's going to come down to goaltending. Who's going to be better out of Pick or Aiden Hill? Both of those are really good goaltenders. Obviously, I give the edge right now to Aiden Hill because he's a Stanley Cup champion.
Mm.
And he's
Yeah.
won Stanley Cup. He knows what it takes to get there to that point, and when to turn on the Jets. So the Oilers are going to have to uh, really going to have to play hard and play a whole 60, and so is Vegas. But it's going to be a good game. Again, this is going to be a pretty good series, but it's just going to be about who can play the whole game versus. And the key to the Oilers, we talked about they just have to be ready to go from the start. They've been a bad first period team, notoriously bad first period team. They can't carry that here.
No, and I think if they can get the bottom six guys uh, scoring like they have been and playing as well as they did in the last 3 or 4 games against LA, they're going to come out of this. And if they keep pounding the net, that's the key. They got to keep shots at the net. They got to keep bugging. They got some of the best guys to be pests in front of the net with Corey Perry, Evander Kane, Zach Hyman, all these guys. If they just kind of buzz around the net, and something's going to happen, you get a deflection, you get, and I think what I saw earlier today, it looks like they're going to go with the big line, Draisaitl and McDavid with Perry. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of splitting those two guys
But
up, but I'm not the
you're
coach.
not in a need to do that right now since
No.
it's a fresh series. But I mean, it's been working obviously.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this, because you're a fan of the Oilers.
Mm-hmm.
What is one thing that you think the Oilers, or that you have concerns about when it comes to Vegas, that could have them beating the Oilers in this series? If
The
you look at it,
defense kind of doing the mental lapses like we've seen in the LA series. We've seen a lot all year. Defense just not like playing bad defense, but just like not making
they're
crisp passes
making
out
little,
of
yeah,
the zone. They're making little
lazy.
mistakes, lazy mistakes. And I hate to point the finger at Evan Bouchard, but he's been the catalyst of this. They don't have Mateus Ekholm yet, so they don't have that solid defensive guy. They're relying on Darnell Nurse and Evan Bouchard,
Oh, how
and
quickly the tables have turned! Because last year at this point we were all high on Evan Bouchard, and Darnell
yep,
Nurse needs to get traded or needs to leave and needs to give Oilers money back, and
yeah,
vice versa.
and
Now
then
it's
it's
Bouchard
the
who's got
reverse.
pressure on him because he,
Yeah,
I mean, thank God he pretty much he saved his whole season by what he did last round.
yeah.
At the end of it, he really did. I mean, he kept the Oilers season alive,
So
and he's just got to play smart. He's not under any pressure, but he's got to play smart.
the other key besides defense is discipline, staying out of the penalty box because this is another team, much like LA. You can't
But
go
the
and
box.
get penalties
No, I mean
against the
you
Knights.
got guys like Jack Eichel and
Mm-hmm.
Mark Stone on the other side of it who are ready to strike if you do.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. I'm pretty confident in Calvin Pickard and bump between the pipes. Even if he gives up a goal or two, he can settle himself down. Unlike Stuart Skinner, who can't seem to really settle himself down enough. So that's like the key, and like the other part is just the Oilers keep pressuring. The Kings and the Oilers had the most goals in the first round of the series in the first round, so they just keep firing the puck. They keep getting goals. They got to
Yes.
not play from behind is another key too.
Couldn't agree more with you.
And then the last series to start will start on Wednesday, and that's going to be an interesting one too. Winnipeg and Dallas. It will start in Winnipeg. Both teams, of course, the only two teams that went to a seventh game won the seventh game in the first round. I'm still pushing the Dallas button here. I'm still thinking the Dallas Stars are going to come up with that magic that they have in the playoffs. And Winnipeg, if Connor Hellebuck doesn't get his mind straight and start playing Connor Hellebuck like in the second round, they are not going to get by Dallas. Because,
No.
I'm not saying, St. Louis is a weaker team, but St. Louis is a less experienced team. And St. Louis almost got them,
Yeah,
and
they were close.
And I just think that, the Stars, if they just keep, doing what they did in the first round against a very talented, high-scoring Colorado team, and if Hellebuck is not Hellebuck, it might be a 5-game series, maybe 6. If it all depends on Hellebuck between the
Yeah,
pipes.
it really does. That series all lays upon him.
Yep.
It does. It really does. Because
Yep.
we know what Otter's been doing.
Yep.
And
Otter will have a bad game, a bad part of a game, but he seems to come up when they need him the most.
yeah, it seems like when you need that save in like OT,
Yep.
or he makes it somehow. Like he somehow he can be 30 feet away from the net, and somehow his stick will extend far enough out where he can get the puck. And
Yeah.
yeah, he just has that clutch gene where I feel like he just calms down.
Yep.
Like he's able to calm himself down and just. I think it's one of those things he lets in a goal and then he feels the puck again. He's like, cool, like we're good.
Yep.
Like I got it.
Yep.
But
So
we know how much we like him. We love Otter. We love
we
Otter.
love Otter. I've always said he's my favorite goaltender, even though he doesn't play for my team. He's still my favorite goaltender in the NHL. So that's what we got going on. Tomorrow night we'll be on after the Oilers Knights game, and that should be. It's going to start at 8:30 our time, so we're probably talking
Like 11:30.
11:30. We'll be on the air to wrap up day 2 of the Stanley Cup
Second round.
The second round already. And it's going to be some great games. You're going to stick with us. You can join us live if you want every night. Just always kind of think after the last game is played, about a half hour after that usually is between the end of the game and the half hour is usually when we're on the air. So you can come catch us live. This will also be available on Facebook here in just a little bit after it's done going live. And it'll be up tomorrow on our YouTube page as all of the Stanley Cup playoff wrap-up shows have been. So we're into the second round, Car.
Yep, we're here.
We love this time of the year. We got a long ways to go, and we got 8 great teams that are fighting for Lord Stanley's Cup, and it doesn't get much better than this.
Nope, I agree.
All right, so again, happy birthday, Car.
Thank you.
And in the meantime, and in between time, everybody have a great hockey night.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.